Oh, champions! Today is tomorrow. Got the same jumper on. I spent hours cleaning this thing, assessing the damage to the board. It's gone from a piss smell, now that I've removed some components and done some soldering, to like a vomit smell. Butyric acid, I don't know. It could be a byproduct of whatever was sprayed on this board, but whatever, I don't know, it seems to be common to a lot of Mesa boards, like something's leaching back out of the board. Uh, anyway, so I've printed out the schematic. I'm just about to draw on there what all these mods are, at least so we've got a diagram idea of what they are, even if I leave them as is, because time is a running out. We'll do the physical repairs. I've replaced the screen grid resistors. We've got some metal oxides down there. No biggie. Got two more carbon comps here, which I'll check out and probably replace as well. I've got to replace that valve socket, so I'll put a Belton in there. The other two look okay. I'm tempted to change them anyway, but just because this board's such a pain in the ass to pull, like, it took about an hour just to desolder everything and take notes on what goes where and take photos. And basically, on a normal board where you'd have a pad top, a pad bottom, and a tube going between them through the hole, these things just have a tube. So what do? Of course, like, that tiny little fucking pubic hair of a pad just comes off the board. So now you haven't got a pad to solder to. So you avoid soldering to a Mesa board at all cost. It's not just the valve socket pads, tubes. I call them solder tubes on Mesa because that's what they are. It's every component has got the tiniest little wisp of a pad that it's basically non-existent. And over here on the connector, I didn't rip any pads here. This is literally, I desoldered the connector. I used Chip Quick, which generally is only required to be pulled out for surface mount SMD rework. But in this case, because the boards are so shit and so poorly made, like worse than third world, I use it on these just to make it so all the joints can be molten at once and the thing just drops out under its own weight. So there's no force required, no threat of ripping these little pubic pads off. That's pretty fucking lame, in my opinion, to be a world class amp manufacturer and you need to use SM rework stuff just to not destroy your boards for through hole components. It really irritates me. And people say you're a Mesa hater. Well, yes, I am, because they're shit. Alright? Whatever. People are going to keep buying them because they're art and engineering, supposedly. Like a job like this, changing the screen grid resistors, doing a recap, normally would be around the $300 mark, right, in labour. On a Mesa, this is blown out to like $700 because there's like just so much time required in assembling, disassembling and reassembling, cleaning off the crap, rewiring shit, taking notes, taking photos, all the stuff you've got to do to work on a Mesa. It just takes time. So you might bleed Mesa Boogie, right? You love Mesa Boogie, it's your amp, right? Just know that you're getting raked over the coals because of their shit design. And it's not the tech's fault, because what are they going to do? Donate time to you because Mesa Boogie is shit at their job? They have to charge you for the time. And if it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money. Time is money, blah, 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 particularly these days. So, you can back Mesa all you want, just know that you're going to be in for a big bill for basic work. Now, I've got the front panel LEDs here. I don't know what the deal is here, but they've got connectors on short little leads that don't reach the front panel. And then you've got wires just shoved into the connector with a bit of silicon. That silicon is very discoloured, which makes me think that it is original factory equipment. So that's lovely too. It's really interesting. Everywhere that this contamination has occurred, the solder looks like it's still solder, but it's got a grey sort of pale grey look to it. And then you heat it up, and it's hard as a rock, won't melt. And then this grey, dark grey, sort of charcoal-looking splooge comes out of the solder and smells like vomit. So whatever chemical it is actually worked its way into the solder chemically and broken it down and destroyed the pads in the process. I'd love to know what chemical that was, because basically, if you're an amp user, do not spray anything into your amp. I don't care what you read where. Leave it to a tech, or just use alcohol. If you're working on your own amp, you take full responsibility for that amp. You can't blame it on some bloke on a forum that told you, oh, WD-40's fine, or whatever. You have to do your due diligence to be able to know 100% what you're using is certified for use in an amp. Don't spray anything on the valve sockets, ever. There is no magical spray shit that you can spray on a valve socket and make it magically better. You either replace the socket or you clean it manually with alcohol and a toothpick if it's not too far gone. You spray anything on the board and all bets are off. You may have just destroyed your amp. And that grey stuff, it sort of bonds with the flux and goes hard as a rock. Like, normally that flux would be cleared by now with alcohol, but whatever it is, it turns to like rock when you heat it. And it looks like that pad may be recoverable, maybe not. I'm gonna have to run some wires no matter what we do. That pad's disappeared. Just evaporated along with the contamination as soon as it got heated. We've got another pad under there that's been affected, right next to that resistor. So we'll heat that up and I'll just show you what happens. So you can't even see the pad because you got to sort of not scratch, but you got to heat up and remove the contamination first. Now it's just got this grey sludge that comes out of it and then goes rock hard. You got to clean it off to see if the pad still exists or not. So whatever chemical it is, it actually leaches its way into the solder, not just on the surface. I don't know, like, is it just me that gets these jobs? It seems to be all the other techs on Newies and stuff, YouTube. It's just straightforward, right? Like, just like, yep, step 1, 2, 3, done, great. How good is this? Alright, champions, so just examining this fuckery here. You've got a cap here, you've got a resistor on end, you've got your two diodes that were previously in the circuit board there floating in midair, now connected up here. There was a cap piggybacked onto the back of C28, which was one of the high voltage caps. That was a 10,000 microfarad 16 volt radial capacitor. It was leaking and had corrosion damage. You had a capacitor here, a radial, which was installed in the board, appeared to be stock. That was 8200 microfarad 16 volt. It was also leaking around its legs. This, at some point, this is the current version, I believe, and the version that was made after this. So this actual amp is an earlier version. This amp here, in its stock condition, was just two diodes meeting there, no resistor, no cap here, a single cap, and then onto the circuit. I guess at some point they decided that wasn't enough filtering, so they introduced another filter stage here by using a 6.8 ohm resistor and another cap here. This amp, this was introduced above the board, so someone's done the mod to make this closer to, not the same as, but closer to the current version. I've got some photos of the current amp I'll show you in a minute, or, you know, year 2000-ish, 2001, something like that. When they clearly made these modifications to the actual circuit board. So this 10,000 microfarad was piggybacked off the back of C28. It was leaking. We removed C28. That was the cap that all that white powdery crap came out of. This 3300 here is now in place of this one, mounted above the board. They have a 3 ohm 5 watt wire wound resistor floating above the board here to create that separation between the two caps. Another filter stage. And this 8200 microfarad 16 volt was the original one that was in there from the factory, and that was leaking as well. So this wasn't really a fancy mod, it was just bringing it up to line with the current model, I guess. But yeah, it could be done a lot better than this, and I think we're going to rework that area. So you can see in this photo here, zoom in. So looking at the date code on the caps, that's year 2000, 31st week. So some point at the turn of the millennium, they decided to increase the amount of filtering. So there's that resistor there. Oh no, that's another one. I'm not sure. So that's those two filter caps. Anyway, there's probably another resistor down here somewhere. But you can see at this point, they abandoned the carbon comp and they've gone with wire wound for the screen grids there. And they've got the dropper there, a Dale resistor, another wire wound one. But, you know, they stubbornly continue with tantalum caps, which we'll change out in this version. Let's see what else we can see, maybe from another angle. Wow, what's going on here? Got copper, aluminium foil wrapped all over everything. Interesting. I don't want to know. You can see there they've got the same burn pin, which is one of the heater windings. You can see here they've got wire wound screen grids there from that angle as well. Someone's done some modifications to this one too. There's on-end resistors there. Wouldn't be a messer if it didn't need modifications to actually be functional, eh? And you can see there the two balance resistors across the voltage doubler. They've used metal oxide instead of the carbon comp. So around year 2000 they decided, yeah, carbon comp's not a good idea. But they've used it in subsequent models, so that was just a brief, momentary lapse of unreasonableness. And you can see up the end there, those two caps, those two radials that form the two sides of that filter for the switching matrix. Which is a little bit complex considering this is just a power amp, and there's not a lot of switching going on. They could have just used a dual pole, dual throw switch probably, but anyway, moving on. So, interestingly, it's still shit, don't get me wrong, but these connectors that we're spying on this board used to be on longer wire, probably, and actually connected to the back of the LEDs with a current limiting resistor there as well. Like, why wouldn't you put that on the circuit board? But anyway, so at some point, someone's cut them short for some reason, and possibly connected them and then had to run extra wires. I don't know. Reportedly, this amp has been modified by a renowned rig builder in the States. But the more and more I look at this, the more I think either that's not true, or maybe the credentials of said rig builder aren't all they're cracked up to be. Yeah, not sure. We've got no way to confirm or deny any of this, so we've just got to battle on. Try and make this thing reliable. Alright, so there's all that crap removed, just for shits and giggles. Let's see what the solder joint underneath looks like. I haven't burnt my hand today yet, so let's do it. Yeah, nothing. No reinforcement, no wrapping or anything, just tack a big blob of solder and then everything just touched together and tack soldered. Every job. And we'll continue to clean up this area, and the more I heat it, the more it smells like vomit. I've never seen anything this bad before, but I seem to say that with every job these days. It just turns to black, sooty crap as soon as you touch it. So really I should remove all the components from this area. That'll be another 2 hours probably. So strange, I've never seen the flux just turn black like that. And it's not from heat, it's having some chemical reaction with the crap that's on the board. So we'll have to clean that up as best we can and then add some more flux until that stops happening. Alright, champions, so I've just reverted back to the original circuit here and hoping that's going to be hunky-dory. I think the reason, reverse engineering the thinking here, I think the reason that they piggybacked the caps and did all sorts of shit is just because the original one failed and it was standing up on end and they were afraid to remove the board because they're sane, unlike me. So they just piggybacked other caps over it and left the failed one in place, which is shit, but I reckon there was probably nothing wrong with the original circuit. They've probably looked the circuit up and then found this stuff with the second filter stage and gone, oh fuck it, I may as well throw that in as well. So we're just going to go back to the stock one because otherwise we're going to have to fly shit above it and it's going to be real messy. So we're just about to reinstall the caps, the main filter caps anyway. I've repaired some traces, run wires. I'm going to continue repairing once we've got the leads from the cap passing through the board because I want to make use of them and wrap stuff around them as well. And then we'll move on to the original reason the amp came in, just the mains conversion. Alright, champions. Shut up, compressor! Jesus. Thank you. So it's time to put in the power transformer. Let's hope the holes line up. No, they don't. Of course they fucking don't line up. Look at the angle it's on. Hole spacing's wrong. Fuck me. Always something, man. Always something. I've spent too much time in this thing already, and now we've got this to deal with because Mercury can't measure shit. So if they can't measure the hole centers, let's hope that they can measure the fucking voltages and the windings are okay. Because that's a bit of a showstopper. So a little saying of mine is, you know, when you're encountering a brick wall, you hit it enough times with that sledgehammer, that brick wall's coming down. So I removed this stud by belting the living fuck out of it. And now we've just got a hole which we can elongate and then put a washer and a screw through. Like Mesa probably should have in the first place. Now we're talking. It's got me chainsaw sharpener here. Does the job. Alright, so pretty much a whole day we've got the thing back together. Every single wire had to be either trimmed or re-terminated. Some wiring had to be replaced because of that weird corrosion had just made it so the solder wouldn't take to the ends no matter how much you snip back, and none of these wires have a lot of slack in them, so a few of them had to be replaced. We've got the transformer wired up, we've removed the header, soldered directly to the board. We've done the recap, all the electrolytics replaced. We've got 2 electrolytics down there instead of the tantalums that it came with. New balance resistors in the voltage divider. New screen grid resistors throughout. I've repaired the board in this area down here from where it was burned. New socket, valve socket. I removed the center tap for the heaters and just ground referenced them with fusible 100 ohm resistors. So if there's ever a short anywhere to the heater line, they'll blow open instead of destroying the new transformer. So at this point, I haven't even witnessed this thing running, so we're going to have to fire it up and give it a test. And if there's any further issues, we're going to have to let the customer know that there's going to be more labour required because this amp's already eaten a whole day. And parts on top of that. So, yeah, good fun. But anyway, for now, I've had enough of this thing. My back's sore from leaning over. My eyes and nose are sore from smelling the puke smell from the board. I think what they do, because even soldering these connections up the back, the puke smell came out. I'm wondering if, when the amp's finished, if they just go through and spray the thing with conformal coating and it just gets over everything, and that conformal coating is what's degraded to the point where it smells like cat piss. Because it's even on the wires that aren't attached to the board. So I don't know. It's a mystery. We'll probably never find out. But it stinks. It's corrosive. It destroys the wiring. It works its way up the jacket of the wiring, so you can't snip any off and resolder it. Whatever it is, I've never seen it in any other amp other than the good old Mesa Boogie. So I'll leave it here, champions, and I'll see you on the next one when we fire it up, give it a test. Probably not a lot tonally to test with this thing, because it's just supposed to be a clean power amp. But I'll fire it up and you can have a look at the readings and stuff anyway. So take it squeezy. I'll bloody see ya on the next one.